In this video I'm going to tackle a poor design for a Sony camera mount, and you'll see coming up here in a few seconds what the problem is and how it manifested and how I propose to solve this issue. So this could be an interesting experiment to see if it works. Let's check it out. So today I'm going to do a little bit of a repair on my Sony FDR AX33, my little 4K camera that I use for shooting my YouTube videos. I'm actually shooting this one on my AX100, which is my more professional camera that I use for commercial work. The AX33 is a great little camera, but unfortunately it's made out of a lot of plastic. And the problem with it, you'll see in some of my upcoming road trip videos where I was using this as my 4K dash camera with I had a polarizing filter on the front and stuff, and I thought this would be a good choice because this camera has the, as you can see, it has the floating lens, the optical stabilization. I thought that would be, that would make it great for taking out any shake, but it actually doesn't. The problem with this design is it adds extra weight to the camera. So this is not a light camera, this is a heavy camera. When mounted on a window mount, a Fat Gecko window mount, which that's a mount that you could put a camera on an airplane, on a wing of an aircraft, and it'll hold it there. It's very, very strong. The problem is, every time you hit a little bump, the camera shakes. And as you can see, the stud that mounts into the bottom, well, you can see what's happened to the plastic here. They've just attached this to the plastic, and it has now worked its way loose. So even though it'll still support the camera, every time you hit a little bump, the camera shakes. So I'm thinking, if we need more support, let's give it some more support. I'm going to attach a big washer to the bottom. That way I can get enough lateral support that when it's mounted, it'll, first of all, instead of the entire weight of the camera being bared by that stud, I can squeeze the camera between the mount and support the weight of the camera around this entire surface here. Anyway, that's what I hope will work. I'm going to mix up some epoxy and we'll stick this to the bottom here. And I know it's going to make taking the camera apart impossible. If I ever have to get into it, I'll have to break this thing off, but chances are having to do any work on this is pretty slim, because if the camera breaks, it's going to end up in the junk pile anyway, right? So anyway, let me get some epoxy mixed up, and we'll attach this and let it dry, and then I'll go do a little drive around and we'll see if it improves the stability, which I think it probably will. Now obviously I want to be very careful when I am using my collective agreement from work to mix it up with. I'm just going to mix up just a little tiny bit of JB Weld, because we're not going to need a lot for this. But I have to make sure that I don't get any in the hole itself, otherwise we're going to have a problem. But I think if I'm careful with this, I should be able to apply this stuff and get it around the stud, the mounting stud, or the mounting hole for the stud, and get this nut to stick. And that, I hope, will provide me enough support that the thing won't shake every time I hit a little bump. I don't need to worry too much about the locating pin, because I don't use this camera with a tripod that actually has a locating pin. The camera I'm shooting this on now is the one that I use for all my serious work. So, and it's on a proper professional Manfrotto tripod that costs a bloody fortune. The tripod that this camera is mounted on was about I think it was about $2,500, so it's not a cheap one, that's for sure. Probably should have mixed up a little more of that stuff. I think a little bit low, so we'll just add a bit more here. Okay, now the critical part, to center this thing, which won't be that difficult, because and now we just have to give it a few minutes to set up. I'm going to have to hold this camera because I don't want to throw my screwdriver here, because gravity will obviously uncenter this thing, so I have to hold it absolutely still here and exactly in the center until the epoxy sets up, which should only take about 5 minutes. And hopefully that is going to do it. That's going to provide enough support so that when I tighten this thing down onto its mount, the weight of the camera will be distributed on a larger area. I was considering actually getting in a little aluminum plate made for the bottom and actually tapping it and using that as an attachment point, just to try to provide some more stability. And then I thought, wait a minute, if I just put a good sized washer on there, that probably will do the trick. Okay, this thing's had plenty of time to set up now. Should be perfect. Yep. Yeah, I think that's gonna do the trick. Didn't get anything inside here, which is good. Otherwise that would be a disaster. The epoxy is now set. It's going to continue to set up here for a while. I can't move this at all, which is good. So now what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go take the camera, I'm going to go mount it in the car, and we'll just do a little bit of a drive around and see how well this works now compared to how well it worked before when it was bouncing all over the place. So I've now reattached my polarizing filter, because I always shoot with the polarizing filter from the car. It helps reduce the glare from the windshield. I'm going to go mount this in the car. I'm going to shoot it in 4K so that I can compare it to the footage that I've already got shot in 4K. And we'll take a look and see how stable it is, and I'll add it on to this video. I was hoping to find a nice rough road, but it looks like they've patched that road, so looks like they've done some work while I was away. Try and find something that is not quite as smooth. I want a road that's going to shake this camera up pretty good, because, well, I just went on a road trip that was almost 6,000 kilometers long. Yes, 6,000 kilometers over the course of 2 weeks. It's a long haul. And shot the whole thing with this camera, and I also shot it with my 1080 crooked dash camera that someone's always going to point out that it's not level. And hey, this one might not be level right now because I didn't really look at it. I just kind of screwed it onto the mount and we're good to go. But the upcoming videos, and they'll be published over the next year. We're not going to see them right away, but like before, there'll be a couple different versions. Basically what I did was I shot the entire trip in 1080 at 60 frames, and that will be used in the ultra lapse version. So what you will see is, you will see the entire Oregon and California coast, and then zigzagging my way across California, Nevada, Oregon, and have some pretty nice countryside there. I tried to take different roads than I've taken on prior road trips. I shot the whole thing in 1080p at 60 frames with my dash camera. I also had the 4K camera that I recorded this on. The AX33 was mounted high in the window, and it was turned on when there was interesting stuff to see, and when there was just straight roads, it was left turned off. Yeah, I say I'll be showing you some of the really scenic sights in America. I took Highway 1, not the 101. I took Highway 1 and went all the way down as far as I could. We couldn't go all the way down 101 because there's a landslide. Here we go. Now I'm on the rough road. You see, that's what I was looking for. Drive over the part of the pavement that's been patched. See how this performs. I bet it performs a lot better than it did before. Well, it got progressively worse, as you'll see in the resulting video. It started out not too bad, but as that plastic case started to crack on the camera, just due to the stress of it being mounted on that stud mount, it became progressively worse through the entire time. And I was trying to devise a way of fixing it. And, well, when you're driving 6,000 kilometers on the road, you have lots of time to think about things. And at first I thought I would mount a metal plate across get a piece of metal plate cut like a 1/4 inch aluminum plate and tap it with a 1/4 inch thread hole to screw it right onto the mount. And then I thought, nope, you know what? If I put a washer on there and glue it to the base, that should also provide the same type of support and secure the camera. And just by looking at what I'm seeing now as I'm driving and as I'm hitting these bumps, the camera is not bouncing around like it was before. So I have a feeling that the resulting picture is going to be superior to what we were seeing prior to this. I'm just going to drive up this next stretch of road here because I know it was cut up pretty bad too when they replaced the water main. This road they replaced the water main on last year, so I'm going to drive up this patch of road and we'll see how this performs, and we'll compare it to some shots that I did prior to, well, you'll see when it was bad. Going to use some shots that was taken immediately before, so in basically the last leg of the trip when it got to be really quite bouncy. Let's just say the camera would wiggle and bounce, and I mean, it was, what do you expect, right? It's made out of plastic. There's no quality that goes into these things anymore. They're all built to make them as cheap as they possibly can make them. And I think probably the manufacturers, they put the tripod socket on there as an afterthought. They're thinking nobody's going to use a tripod with the camera. They're just going to hand hold it, and we don't need to. I mean, there actually has been some cameras around, and I have one, that the tripod socket, believe it or not, is made out of plastic. If you can believe that. And I actually have a couple cameras that are like that. They're cheap, right? One's a little Kodak camera that looks like a cell phone, but it's a video camera, and I used to use that as my dash camera. And the mounting threads are plastic. It looks like they fixed this road too. This one was all carved up. They've come down here and they've repaved this road. Normally this light stays green all the time for this direction. It's a truck route. And now you'll see what I mean about the bad road. You'll see how well the camera handles this, because this is about as ugly as it gets. I don't know how well the optical steady shot's working with this, because I'm getting bounced around here pretty good. take you guys on a little sightseeing trip here. If you watched the last season of Prison Break, the one that they just did this last year, I'm going to drive you over the bridge that was featured in the movie, in the TV series. That was shot out here in Ladner and around Vancouver. There was a lot of shots around in North Vancouver where you could actually see the Second Narrows Bridge and the train bridge that is below it, the swing train bridge. Well, there was also another shot that was shot out in Ladner, and it was shot on the Westham Island Bridge. And this bridge is over 100 years old. It is a single lane wooden bridge, and we're going to drive over it. So, oh, they're shooting something down here, a sign that says Chile, so they're actually filming down here today. See the sign on the right that says Chile? Yellow sign there, that's saying that that's for the crew, you see? They're filming down here today. I wonder if I'll be even able to get across the bridge. Yes, the bridge should be open. So this is the famous bridge that's been used in many TV shots and film shots over the years. It's a heritage bridge. It's over 100 years old. It's the Westham Island Bridge that connects the mainland of Ladner to Westham Island. And you'll see this bridge in the backdrop of many TV shows and many movies. That little shack on the left there, that's the bridge operator's office. And basically what happens is when a boat needs to go through that is too high to clear the bridge, he radios them at that control room there, and the bridge operator actually has to go out, walk up the bridge, and manually open the bridge. It's electric, obviously, but he has to actually go to the bridge control, go to the control panel, swing the bridge open, let the boat go through, and then close the bridge when he's done. So I think we've gone over the bridge there. I think we'll turn around now. This road's pretty smooth here. We'll turn around and we'll go back over the bridge again, and oh, something's going on here. Somebody's building something. We'll go back over the bridge and conclude this video. If the sky looks kind of funny today, that gray, well, that's not really gray. The sky should be clear, but it's not. That's all smoke. Our air quality right now is worse than it is in Beijing, according to the news reports. There are so many forest fires burning in central BC right now, and the wind has shifted, and all the smoke from all those fires has now drifted down to us here. So that haze that you see, that's actually smoke from all the wildfires burning around British Columbia and Washington and Oregon state. I guess probably mostly from BC. But it was like this when I was down in the States last week. It was like this. It was horrible, and you'll see it when those videos get published. You'll see the haze. In fact, I've got some shots where you can actually look at the sun with the naked eye, and it looked just like an orange fireball. So here's the gate where they close it here, right? And this is the swing portion of the bridge right now that I'm on. I think this is the swing portion, or is it this one? Yeah, that was the swing portion of the bridge. And there's the other gate there where they stop the traffic. One of these days I should come down here with my camera and I should just stake out the bridge. Go have a little chat with the operator and just hang out there and see if he'll let me hang out and actually film the operation of the bridge opening and closing. That might be kind of neat. So as you can see, they're building a big warehouse on the right side. There's going to be another warehouse on the left. This is going to be a Tier 1 distribution space. I'm going to call it Delta I-Port. They can't think of anything more original than calling it an I something. You know what? Maybe Apple will sue them. And this light here is always permanently green to this direction as well, to allow traffic through or to left turn. And if I go straight through, I will end up onto the reserve. So let's take a little drive down Tsawwassen Drive. It's going to be another road that's not in the best of shape. And we'll see what all these millionaires that are part of the Tsawwassen First Nations places look like. And yeah, there's going to be some pads in here that look pretty sad, but you'll be amazed at what a lot of them look like, because every single one of these people that live down here on the First Nation lands, they're all millionaires. And their settlement with the government, they got given a whole big huge chunk of land, which they've now developed into a mega mall, and they're putting in a huge housing development down here. So these ones are not hurting. You might find some First Nation communities where, you know, they're in a little bit of financial pickle, to say the least, and there's a lot of substance abuse, I'm sure, and alcohol abuse in a lot of the reserves. But this one is not one of them, as you will see. This one is this Tsawwassen First Nation here is probably one of the wealthiest of all of the First Nations in the country. They see the houses here right on the beach. There's a couple of old shacks that are still kicking around from, 20, 30, 40 years ago, but most of them have come down, and most of the stuff out here is all relatively new. And oh, the sun's starting to come out. I can just see an orange glow up in the sky. Oh, they put a stop sign here. Interesting. This never used to be here. So if I hang a left into here, check out all these pads here. Check out all these pads. These go for like $1 million and up. They're all brand new. They're still under construction. There's going to be about 5,000 houses in here in the not too distant future. Now, many of the residents in here are actually not First Nations people. These ones are open market. They're leasehold properties, right, that are sold, but it's on their land. It's on the Tsawwassen First Nation land, as is that monster mall that's straight ahead of us that we'll drive by in a minute here. See, they're all still developing here, and everything ahead of us here is going to be all developed over the next couple of years too. So say about 5,000, I think they're saying 5,000 houses is what's going to be going into this when it's all said and done over the next, next half a dozen years or so, I would imagine. here's the monster mall. It's not finished yet. The side on the right is finished. The side on the left is still under construction. It'll be probably finished up in the next year or so, but off to the right, you'll see the water slides. There's going to be a resort, a hotel resort going in right next to it here on my right side. That's starting construction this fall. So yeah, it's this is all the TFN lands. So they're all multi-millionaires, every one of them. Okay, I think that answers that question. That yes, indeed, putting that washer on the bottom of the camera and securing it down with some epoxy I used, JB Weld, has certainly made a big difference as far as the stability of the camera goes. Yes, if I hit some really huge potholes, it's still going to shake, and that's actually the mount itself. The camera is attached using a dual suction cup Fat Gecko mount, and the actual mount itself will shake. But the camera itself is no longer rocking back and forth and jiggling like it was before. When I was using it last week, even roads that were not really in that bad a shape, the thing was shaking like crazy. So I think I've resolved one of the issues with this. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you again real soon.